Well, good evening and welcome to this virtual town hall, a Meet the Candidates opportunity for the Melba ward. I hope you're all wearing your Make Yarra Great Again masks because I think this is really important. It's a good place to start. And I'll take that off for now, but you can give me a call. I'm selling them for $10 each and all proceeds go to me. So this evening is uh, um, an event that has been coordinated between the Yarra Residents, the Yarra Residents Collective and the Fitzroy Residents Association. They've partnered to make this happen, and we have 13 of the 15 candidates standing in Melba ward, and we welcome them, and we're very grateful that they could give us their time this evening. This event is designed to be informative, inclusive and respectful, and assist to inform residents of the policies of each of the candidates. Now, just to go to the Fitzroy Residents Association, their objective is simple: to keep Fitzroy livable and sustainable. The FRA's mission is to promote, protect and enhance residential amenity, and I'm sure that applies to everybody in Yarra. The objective of the FRA is simple: to keep, we've done that, sorry. Where are we? There we go. Now, a reminder to all of you on Zoom, candidates, that if you're not speaking, please mute your microphone. It avoids a lot of acoustic annoyance. We've also received many questions in advance, and what we've managed to do with these is to trim them down to basically the essence of the questions that have been asked, and we will be putting those to the candidates as the evening goes on. At approximately 8:10, we'll have an interval for 10 minutes, and then we'll return to the questions and final remarks of the candidates. Now, the candidates are going to be introduced in the order that they appear on the ballot. They'll have 2 minutes in this first part of the event to put their case. We'll ask them to introduce themselves and also to tell us who they represent. They have 2 minutes, and at 2 minutes and 10 seconds, if they're still talking, they will get a little reminder that it's time to wrap up. We'll be as polite about this as we possibly can be, but if we need to be brutal, we will. We've only got 2 hours. They're aware of the questions so that they've been able to prepare their answers. Now, where are we? All right, I won't bother you with that just now. That'll come at interval. Where are we last? Okay, we've done all that. I've been well ahead of myself. I've done that pretty well. We've got to wrap up by 9 p.m. So we'll begin by introducing the candidates in the order they appear on the ballot. And we'll begin with Mecca Ho. Mecca, welcome.
Yes. Hi.
And, your 2 minutes starts now.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to acknowledge our candidate. My name is Mika Ho. I live in City Yarra, Richmond for 35 years with my family, with my 2 children. So I stand for independent in Melba. I'm not affiliated with any party member. I'm part of the Victoria Street Business Association, and I achieved organizing Victoria Street Lunar Festival and Moon Lantern Festival in the public high-rise estate last year. I stand for because I believe there's things that we as residents who live in Richmond, in Melba, my value is that I just want to give back something that I'm not trying to be a political affiliate. I'm tired of, that's why I'm running for this town. So my biggest issue is that at the moment is that we resident elected and the business with the medical safety detection room. I know you're all tired of that, but I did support it. And now I just want to reform it and relocate it. Second is parking. For business, resident, for myself, business is 1 hour free parking. Why all other councils have 1 free hour parking when CBR can't offer 1 free hour parking for all the business for Beach Road, Victoria Street, and Swan Street? Thirdly, the bicycle lane in Lisbon Street, which we all are independent agree that it's a big issue. It's taking too much. I don't support it in a way. I do support bike lane, but it's just too cluttered and it looks ugly. There's no public consultation, and that's why I run as a candidate. So I want council to be able to engage the local community, business and residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mecca. And look, I do apologise already. I've buggered it up, but the candidates run over 2 pages, and I leapt to the second page with some gay abandon, and we got to Mecca before I thought we should. Oh, no, we're right. I didn't get it. Hey, all right, now I'm going to calm down. I don't have to read much anymore. So we're going to go on now to Don Ash. Don?
Good evening. Good evening. Don Ash, Independent. I believe that random acts of kindness can and will change the world, and that the best people are those whose passion is matched by their compassion. And the greatest gifts that I have and bring to this council would be my empathy and my kindness. Overcoming great diversity has made me strong and led me to a life where gratitude is a daily ritual, and to a place now where I can give and do more to serve the community I call home. As an immigrant to Australia, I understand the sense of loss that can result through physical dislocation from a place of origin, and the comfort that it is to find somewhere to call home. Richmond is my home. 10 years ago, I moved into a rental in Richmond. I fell in love with the suburb, and a year later bought the apartment that I've lived in for the last 9 years. This community gives me comfort, strength and hope, and now I want to give back. After cancer surgery in 2016, I spent a great deal of time walking in Burnley Park, drawing closer to that community and being helped in my recovery by the community spirit. In the years that have followed, I've become something of a voice for the concerns that some in that community have. And people know that if they raise an issue with me, I will take it to council. And then when it comes to championing issues for the people I care about, I am like a dog with a bone. I consider myself to be educated, well-educated, articulate and very driven. I have 30 years of experience working on organizational culture with leaders globally, helping them to make their organizations better places. That is the experience I bring, and I personally think council needs a culture of greater engagement with and listening to the community. After many years of travel, I promised my family that from 2021 onwards, I would devote more time to being at home. I can think of no better way to spend that time than by serving the community that is Melba and working to improve council culture through personal example. I don't see the role of council as a part-time job. I see it as full-time advocacy, and that is the simple commitment that I make. I will never pass the buck and tell you it is someone else's problem to fix. If it is your problem, I will make it my issue because your voice matters to me, and together we can build the community we desire and deserve. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you very much, Don. And now we have Edward Crossland. Edward? There he is. Hello, Edward.
Great.
That's my middle name, Edward.
Hello,
I'm very
thank you.
proud of you. I'm going to vote for you, but I'm not in your ward. You have 2 minutes starting now, Edward.
Fantastic, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Edward Crossland, and I'm the Greens endorsed candidate for Melba Ward. For those that don't know me, I'm a long-term Yarra local and first started to come to Yarra in my mid-teens when my mother worked as a florist at Flowers by Travel Rose on Smith Street in Fitzroy back in the 90s. In my later teens, I started heading to Q&A at the Builders Arms in Fitzroy, the Corner Hotel on Swan Street, and the Terminus Hotel on Victoria Street in Abbotsford. These days, you'll find me and my dogs down at one of our many great parks, dancing up a storm at the Body Electric Dance Studio in Collingwood, playing squash at Good Life, or grabbing something fresh at Gladell Street Market. As a planning, transport and urban design professional, I am passionate about facilitating integrated outcomes and creating better places for people. Also, with Yarra being one of the primary centres for queer community in Melbourne, I think it's important to have representation on council. I'm running for council as I want to help make change happen. I want to work with our communities to meet our current and future needs and proactively plan for the future. I want to help improve town planning processes and outcomes, address housing affordability, and support our local businesses. Now is a really important time to reflect and look at how we can do things differently to keep Yarra cool, creative, weird, and wonderful. Along with my fellow Greens candidates, I'm really excited to be running as part of a team of talented, experienced and passionate individuals. I'd like to acknowledge and say thank you to everyone that's helped make this evening happen tonight. It's really, really appreciated. And I'd also like to acknowledge all the other candidates they've nominated, regardless of political persuasion. It takes a lot of time, effort and commitment. Thank you. Beyond that,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I'm really excited to answer some questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. You will have your opportunity. Now, we're coming to Dora Sapouris. Dora, welcome to you, and your 2 minutes starts now.
Thank you, Rod, and hi, everybody. Thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to be able to speak to the community. So, yes, my name is Dora Sapouris, and I am running as an independent, and I'm a local resident of Richmond. I've lived here all my life. I've grown up in Richmond, and part of my growing up years, I grew up in the public housing estate in North Richmond in the High Street Tower. I also attended the Richmond West Primary School, which is on the estate. And later in years, I went to Richmond High back in the day when it was down on the boulevard. Of course, it's no longer there. But the good news is we do have Richmond High back into our community, which is great. I'm putting myself forward for council because right now, this council isn't listening to the community. If it were listening, I wouldn't be here. But I have been talking to the community and I've been listening to the community over the last couple of years. And really, they are fed up. They are fed up about not being heard, about the lack of consultation, lack of engagement in matters that absolutely affect residents, locals, traders, such things as trials that are taking place both with the injecting room and also cycling trials that the community that's greatly affected and impacted, the ones living there, haven't been consulted. And so this is affecting the neighbourhood. There's increased crime, there's increased drug culture. There are people who are very upset about cycling trials that are making it more dangerous and removing parking. And then the other side to that is the businesses, the traders. Now, I remember growing up here in Richmond, I remember the heyday of where everybody wanted to move to Richmond, wanted to hang out in Richmond because we had a great retail atmosphere. Our retail streets were just booming. Now, I understand times have changed, trends have changed, online's come in, but yeah, and of course, COVID's affected things now, but this was way before COVID, the problems started to happen. And the problems were that the streets were really dying. Victoria Street, has been greatly affected by the injecting room culture. We've got empty shops down on Bridge Road. Swan Street is probably the only one that's doing better, but even that street needs assistance. So I want to be able to get in there and work with traders to bring it back to revive the Richmond streets. And so that's why I'm running, because I want to be not just a voice, but I want to be of service, because my background is in a variety of different roles, from management, consultation, but at the core of it, it's about service. So I'm for the people, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you very much, Dora. Right on the knocker. You did very well in using your seconds very efficiently. And now we move to Sarah Whitty. Sarah, welcome. And your 2 minutes starts now.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Sarah Whitty. I'm an independent candidate. I've got a quick question for you all. Who loves Richmond? I do. I love the parks, the cafes, the pubs, the restaurants. I love walking out my front door and knowing everything is on my doorstep and there's a pub on every corner. Now, I've had a varied career. I've had a career in a very corporate space in banking, finance and property. And I've also been an owner-operator of 3 small businesses. So I have an understanding of business from big to small. In my current role, I'm very excited to say that I raise money for social and affordable housing. And so far, I'm proud to say that I've raised over $11 million to be towards social housing projects. In that role, I spend a lot of time dealing with property developers, and I know that property developers have the potential to earn a lot of money based on decisions made at council. So I insist that property developers give back. And when I say give back, I mean give back in every way. Social housing, community benefits, environmental consideration, green spaces, and consideration to our history and our heritage. I think that there's a real opportunity missed there. If we use Bridge Road, for example, we've seen it go from bad to worse, which breaks my heart. And I tried to shop as much as I could to keep it alive, but it didn't happen. But if these projects gave us some space off the street, allowed people to eat and enjoy the area off the street, then we could actually engage more with each other and bring this road back to life. I think the Swan Street, Bridge Road and Victoria Street can have all very different personalities, but still be vibrant and great spaces for our community, current residents, and also tourists to come in and enjoy. One thing I'll also just touch on is equality. I know that, for example, in sports, Richmond are a very sporty bunch. We all, at 6 o'clock pre-COVID time, I used to see everyone out running and putting on their lycra, going to the gym. But I'd like to see equality in sports, to see that women get as much time on our playing fields as the men do. Just an equal amount, that's all. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That's very good of you. And now we move to Kate Drake, who's sitting in the middle of the Burnley Gardens. Kate, welcome. And your 2 minutes starts as soon as you unmute your microphone.
Thank you, Rod. My name's Kate Drake and I'm standing as an independent for Yarra Council. I grew up in Richmond and Burnley in a small business family in pubs and fully embraced the rich diversity, of which I saw a lot, and the multiculturalism that defines our area. And to me, Richmond is, or Melba is more than just a community, it's family. As an independent with family, small business and liberal values, I'm not beholden to party structures and policies. So I will focus on what matters in Yarra and specifically Melba. Richmond's personality is as vibrant and exciting as ever, especially when the Tigers win. But the transparency of the current council representatives on a number of notable matters are really at odds with our community's standards and expectations. So if elected, I will advocate on your behalf for issues including safety, increased accessibility for our disabled residents, transparency of development processes, small businesses, parking, rubbish, and transport infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. That's very good. And now we move to David Horseman, who I see on the wall behind him has a degree in political science. Is that what it is, David? You'll have to, there we go.
No, I think you might be talking me up there a little bit, Rod. It's not quite that, mate. In fact, it's not even mine.
Oh, okay. Well, 2 minutes to you, David.
No worries, thank you. Thanks, Rod. And yeah, good evening, everyone. So as Rod said, my name's David Horseman. I'm an independent candidate for Melba. And basically, if there's anything that life has taught me, it's the importance of local government to the local community. So I'm a local Richmond resident, and some of you have already talked about all of the amazing things that Richmond has to offer. But the important thing to remember is that just doesn't magically happen. The most important things are the decisions that we make and the actions that we take on a day-by-day basis. And council is absolutely vital to that. And I know that firsthand because I've spent more than 20 years either working within local government or within the private sector, providing advice and guidance and support to government agencies that provide those community services. So I've had the first-hand knowledge and the first-hand experience of just what it takes to ensure that a local council best represents, best supports, and best provides for its community. And in many ways, that's the key driver for me to put myself forward as a candidate, because what I've seen both personally living in Richmond and what so many people tell me when I talk to them on a day-by-day basis is that for all of the great things that Richmond has, it currently has a crop of councillors in Melba that at their worst have just gone AWOL. I've had so many people tell me about the emails gone unanswered, about the complete lack of willingness to support them when they have issues and needs, and whether that's the really challenging topics You know, the things like development on your doorstep, large scale, inappropriate development that's threatening our heritage values, that's threatening the local neighbourhoods, or whether it's just the everyday core council services, the tidy streets, the beautiful gardens, you know, just those basic things that as a community you rely on an everyday basis. And that's been my motivation to put myself forward, to fix those problems. Basically, it doesn't matter what someone does when they show up at election time and promise you the world. What matters is what they do every day and every week for the next 4 years beyond that. And that's my commitment to you, to put both my personal and professional experience to work for you. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about community. When we look from north to south and east to west across Richmond, there are so many different things. We're not all the same. We're an incredibly diverse community, and that's one of our strengths. But it means that in order to best represent you, you have to first listen, but most importantly, you have to take action. And that's my commitment to you. I built a career in local government because I could walk outside the door every day and see the change that was being made, to see the benefit that was being brought to my community. And that's my commitment to you now, to be that strong local representation that you deserve and to make our community both fantastic now, but to be something that we can be proud to pass to future generations and continue to be the envy of so many others around us. Thank you, folks.
Thank you very much, David. And I notice we don't have Matthew Ford with us. Is that right? We don't have Matthew. Okay. Then we move on to Penelope Drummond. Penelope, welcome. And just unmute your microphone and you will be in the running to become a councillor starting now.
Thank you, Rod. Just quickly before I start, I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional owners of the Wurundjeri Nation. And I'd like to start a little bit about telling you a little bit about me. I'm a single mother with 2 primary school age children. We've lived on North Richmond Housing Estate since 2014. My children attend Richmond West Primary School. I've been making a contribution to my community since moving here. I'm a member of the school council. This is my 2nd year. I support my neighbours on the estate. I am a member of the Belgium Avenue Neighbourhood House Committee, and I'm a member of the local reference group for the Medically Supervised Injecting Room, or EMSA. I'm invested in this community and have become increasingly active over time, and I see my candidature as the next step in this representation. So I'd just like to say, firstly, that I've worked with many people in my community who've historically had to overcome multiple barriers to be heard. And I would like to be their voice on council. Secondly, I'll work towards a cleaner and greener city of Yarra. The first step is recycling on the estate. Third, we have a world-class medically supervised injecting room. And now to turn our attention to the task of developing world-class amenities in North Richmond surrounding the EMSA. And I'll do this by being involved in the $9 million state government urban revitalisation initiative called the North Richmond Precinct Project. Fourth, I'll be pushing to include a range of voices, including that of children and young people, building on existing initiatives like the City of Yarra Youth Ambassador Program. And I'll approach all of these decisions with an emphasis on evidence-based research and compassion. Thanks, Rod.
Oh, Penelope, thank you very much. And thank you for acknowledging the traditional owners. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owner of the space we appear on, Mark Zuckerberg. Now, our next candidate is Sandeep Sarathi. Sandeep, welcome to you. And your 2 minutes starts when you'd like to start.
Good evening. Thank you, Rod. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandeep Sarathi, and I'm the Labor candidate for Melba. I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting virtually and pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging. To introduce myself, I'm a chemical engineer by background, and I have a PhD in plastic recycling and currently work in environmental policy. My wife and I rented in Richmond for a bit, and we fell in love with the place. The facilities, the restaurants, the diversity, the Yarra River nearby, Citizens Park, Gledell Street Markets, all that. And we decided to buy our first home here. So I'm invested in making this community a great community to live in and hopefully start a family someday. My three main passions for Yarra are environment, education, and social mobility. By environment, I think Yarra City Council has already done a great job by buying 100% renewable energy, but I think we can do more, and we can encourage citizens and individuals to get more renewables. I live in an apartment. I can't put solar panels on my roof, but I think Yarra City Council can do things to encourage people like me and others who live in apartments to contribute towards a greener future. I'd also like to see better recycling facilities and better waste management. And as Penelope mentioned, the estates don't even have recycling, which is something that we really do need to work on. My second passion was education. As an immigrant myself, education was really my ticket to success. And I currently volunteer with children in Collingwood College, and I really see the I really see the need for educational assistance for some of them. I really like to expand these programs more, have homework clubs, things like that all throughout Yarra, so that all kids can get the best education and get the education they deserve to help them move themselves up in life. The other thing, my third point was social mobility. By social mobility, I mean the ability to make sure that you can raise yourself up in life and make sure that you have the opportunity to maximize your potential. So after education, the other things you need are affordable housing, you need stable jobs, you need good transport. These are all the things that I will fight for. And also we need strong small businesses to give those jobs. So as a lot of you have mentioned before, it's really sad walking through Bridge Road and seeing so many for lease signs. This happened pre-COVID, and unfortunately COVID's made things worse, but I really would like to work with, Yarra Labor has plans to improve the small businesses in the area, including Bridge Road, Swan Street and Victoria Street. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. And we now move on to Mitchell Price. Mitchell, welcome to you.
Well,
and your 2 minutes. We're actually, some people haven't used their whole 2 minutes. So if you want to use a bit more, you go for your life.
Well, thanks so much for the introduction. My name's Mitchell Price, and I'm putting my hand up to represent you and the rest of our community in Melba at the upcoming elections in October, just around the corner. My vision is a simple one. It's one that makes Yarra a better place to live, work and visit. A place that our small businesses are thriving. I want our open spaces to be a place where you feel safe and our community to continue in its rich cultural heritage. One of the biggest things that stands out to me is that we don't really have an action plan on how we're going to come out the other side of this COVID-19 pandemic. There has been some work done to date, but not enough. We have small businesses, sole traders along Victoria Street, Bridge Road and Swan Street closing their doors or struggling to stay open. If I'm elected, I will deliver a Yarra City Council community voucher program that will see every resident in our city support local businesses and sole traders as they come out the other side of this COVID-19 pandemic. Improved community facilities. Far too long, our friends in Langridge and Nichols are opening up new facilities, cutting ribbons, and new things that we don't have here in our backyard. So improved facilities such as even simple things of safety of pedestrian and school crossings. We walk through our community and they are not at the standard of where they should be. I think it's important that we establish an advisory group so that we can have passionate locals, community leaders, their voices heard around the table. I think you'll hear from all of us tonight, the community feel like they're not being listened to. So we need to do something, and bringing together an advisory committee that allows your voices to be heard will be my priority. And as you heard, as I touched on at the start, a renewed economic plan to rejuvenate local business strips all across the community. We need more than just a bit of paper or something on the website. We need to have plans, grant programs that actually deliver real change. As I speak to businesses along these shopping strips, the simple thing of getting council to return their phone calls is something that we're not being able to achieve right now. Currently, I'm employed as a head of government relations and public affairs for a global tech company in the transport field, e-scooters and e-bikes to be exact. And I have extensive community experience in community and stakeholder management. I've advocated for changes to local and state and even federal legislation. I have the experience to be able to listen, learn and make changes. And I believe that together with the other councillors elected on council, we can affect real change in the October 2020 elections. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. And now we come to Katerina Radonik, sitting there in front of a tunnel. And I said to her earlier, I hope a train's not coming. Katerina, welcome. And your 2 minutes start now.
Thank you, Rod. Hello, everyone. My name is Katerina Radonik. And my reason for standing for council is simple. I'm tired of not being heard and things do need to change. I'd like to state that I'm not beholden to any party and I'm not going to sell out for an ideology. I've grown up, I have lived and owned cafes in this area for many years, and my relationships with people, the streets and the life is deeply embedded here. And I want to ensure that our voices are heard. Council used to be of the people and for the people. I'd like to bring that back. Council has now become a playground for political parties and wannabe aspiring politicians, using council as a stepping stone, a practice shot maybe, before moving up to state. Councillors should be working for residents. They should be supporting the interests of the community and not their own interest, not their own affiliations and their own pet projects. I don't pretend to know everything or have all the answers, but I'm smart, committed, and intend to change processes for the benefit of this community. We deserve representation on the issues and concerns that matter to us, and not having party ideology rammed down our throats. I pledge that I will do my best to represent this community and implement and deliver infrastructure that benefits us. Council must be accountable for its actions and its decisions. It is ultimately our money that is used, and it is us, the citizens, who should reap the greatest benefit. This council has not functioned for the benefit of this community. They have played the game of pitting residents against each other. When one group wins, another loses to the detriment of the rest. But this has also helped to unify us. We need open discussion, planning, compromise, sharing honest, real information so that views can be presented and solutions reached with mutual agreement. This is how we build a community, not by disregarding the needs of some for the benefit of others. This is what I want to build in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katerina. And now we come to the very patient Herschel Landis. Is it Landis, Herschel? Oh, sorry, your microphone's on mute.
There, you got me now?
Yep, we have.
You can call me anything you like except late for dinner.
Okay, all right. Well, very good. You look hungry too. Look at you.
I am hungry.
Little thing. Well, your 2 minutes starts now, Herschel.
Thank you, Rod. And also I'd like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional owners and the ongoing custodians of the land on which we reside. My name is Herschel Landis. My address is 194 Bridge Road, Richmond. This is a critical time for a strong business voice on council to support reviving Yarra's shopping strips severely hit by COVID lockdowns. As an experienced local business operator for 30 plus years, I was formerly the Bridge Road Traders Association president for over 5 years. Currently appointed to Victoria Government's Richmond Revitalisation Task Force, I am committed to restoring the vitality of Richmond shopping strips to provide jobs and local services for you and your families. With over 2 decades of involvement in council issues, I regularly attend council meetings and present submissions. I work with the mayors of Yarra and Stonington and local businesses to campaign against the state's proposed extension of clearways to 10 a.m. and from 3 p.m. And this would have damaged local businesses by reducing access to shops and services on Victoria Street, Bridge Road and Swan Street. I also campaigned for an improved accessible tram stops on Bridge Road and new pedestrian crossings at Basisto Street after an extensive one-year-long campaign. Other involvements have challenged council's financial accountability, including Yarra's 2017 bin tax that would have excessively increased your rates and charges. In 2017, I instigated a VCAT action where I contested council's $22 million open space reserve fund being reduced to zero without proper public explanation. This depleted the fund for new and improved open space facilities, such as, say, Citizens Park and Burnley Park for sports and dog walkers, or improved pedestrian and cycle paths. Ladies and gentlemen, you may need help to access council services for your family, deal with rates, parking, planning, waste collection, dog poo bags in our parks, or follow up any other issues with council. I pledge to listen to you, to be responsive, and to act in the best interests of our community as part of an accountable and transparent council. I am someone who gets things done and someone you can and have someone to call when you have a problem. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Herschel. Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, 12 of our 15 candidates in the Melba ward. So unfortunately, 3 candidates couldn't be with us this evening, but we thank them all for their precise answers and sticking to time. And now we're going to move on to what we're calling general questions. These are questions that have been submitted in advance of this evening's town hall, virtual town hall. And these are questions that really relate to Yarra overall. After the break, we'll ask some questions specific to Melba, but of course, each councillor, whilst representing their own ward, indeed contributes to the policy of the whole of Yarra. So our first question comes from Therese. I should have bought my glasses. Sorry. Therese Saldana. She's from Melba, and she wants to know what ongoing issues are you aware of in your ward that have still to be addressed? What ongoing issues are you aware of in your ward that still need to be addressed? Get you to put up your little hand if you want to answer that, and we'll take them as you indicate. Yes, Mitchell. Thank you.
Thanks, Rod. I'll have a crack at this one to start with. And thanks, Teresa, for your question. I think that there's a range of different issues. It depends who you talk to. I think the ones that are being raised with me, particularly along Bridge Road from the traders, is what is our plan coming on the outside of COVID? How are we revitalising these shopping strips? And this was a problem pre-COVID. It's not a new problem. I think council really needs to think outside the box here, to be able to come up with solutions that can help these traders, not just Bridge Road, but also Swan Street and Victoria Street. There is the hot topic of tonight. I'm sure that many of you are sitting on the edge of your seat wanting to know where we all stand on the safe injecting room. And that is a hot topic that we'll delve into. For the record, I'm a supporter of it. The safe injecting room saves lives. And it's something that I'm sure all of us will have a different view on. Active transport, we don't really have a connected cycleway system in the city. Some of it's separated, some of it's not. You'll hear again that community consultation isn't really at the forefront on a lot of this, which it needs to be. And then I think that there's a purple bin popping up around sometime soon as well for glass recycling. So that's another issue that I'm aware of, that people continue to bring up. And obviously the one which every council is faced with, development. Most recently, the development of the proposed hotel site on Church Street, which was, I think, referred last week at the council meeting. That and other development issues continue to arise across the board. I'll let some others jump in with some thoughts.
Thanks, Mitchell. Anybody else like to pop a hand up? Yes, David Horseman. David?
Thanks, Rod. So yeah, look, definitely the single biggest issue that has been raised with me regularly across Richmond is development, is planning and development. Effectively, the lack of our planning controls and our current processes actually helping the community to preserve everything that's great. The general feeling, and certainly my experience, is that the current circumstances seem to be heavily biased towards the developer. And so that's something we really need to get onto as a priority. There's also been, and it's kind of related to the development issue because it's about growth, there's also the need for much more green space, more pocket parks and more family-friendly environments, more space to take the kids to, you know, with more and more apartment dwellers. There's a real need to ensure that we have good quality and sufficient open space across Richmond. There's also been a very common thread that I've been hearing that is in relation to just, I mentioned it earlier in my intro, just the core services, a general feeling that we're prioritising the wrong things in council, that we're spending a lot of time and money on things that in and of themselves are fine, but if we can't get the fundamentals right, if we can't get the really good quality core services delivered to the standard that our community need, then we really shouldn't be focused on some of those other things until we can. There's been an absolute thread that Mitch touched on about community engagement. And the most important word in community engagement is community. And at the moment, I mentioned also in my intro that a lot of people tell me they just feel like they're in the way. And when council starts making residents feel like they're in the way, then something is definitely broken and needs resolution. And without a doubt, without trying to copy too much of what Mitch has already said, the safe injecting room and trials more generally have left a bad taste in people's mouth, which I think is really unfortunate because trials offer a great opportunity for the community to be part of creating their future. But unfortunately, we absolutely need to improve the way we do those sorts of things. And we need to make sure that the community drive our future because it's their future that matters. Thank you.
Thanks, David. And Herschel, I saw you with your hand up. Sorry, your microphone's on mute again.
Okay. So it would have been helpful. $22 million of open space money was used in 2016 to fund council's cash flow crisis. It would have been really helpful if we would have had that money so that we could have acquired and improved open space opportunities. And I can relate to a few around Richmond, especially around Bridge Road area and Swan Street area and also Victoria Street area. That open space is really critical. If you're going to have intensive development in activity centres, then you need to have open space. And that brings me to structure plans. There has not been one structure plan delivered for Victoria Street Activity Centre, Bridge Road Activity Centre, and Victoria Street Activity Centre. 3 very important DDO structure plans have yet to be delivered. And I'd like to know why they haven't been delivered. Other issues are the integration with Cremorne and the rest of the community. Cremorne is currently under the Victorian Planning Authority. There needs to be greater assimilation with council, especially around areas like infrastructure and dealing with open space in that area as well. Improving active transport opportunities has been mentioned, but also Citizens Park, improving the amenity, the contest between dog walkers and kids who want to use the sporting arena. Citizens Park is working overtime and there needs to be some expansion or improvement to the amenity around that area. The DDA tram stops in Bridge Road and Victoria Street are diabolical. They are an urban design catastrophe, and as the one behind me, and they need improving. I'd like to actually get rid of the afternoon clearway in Bridge Road, along Bridge Road, and tram stop number 15 that services the health precinct outside the Epworth. There's no seating, there's no shelter, there's no directional signage, there's no amenity, and it desperately needs improving. The other issues are the golf course. Burnley Golf Course is under challenge at the moment because council needs to spend money to mitigate risk liabilities there. I'm arguing for a 4-year moratorium on any change to the circumstances of that golf course. Funding for sports reserves, pavilions, public toilets, and Christmas decorations, and ensuring that ratepayers get good value for their rates. And I suppose ending waste and consultant fees and extravagance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Herschel. And Kate, you had your little hand up. Would you like, for 3 points, to tell us what issues you feel are still to be addressed?
Thank you, Rod. I think many of the issues have already been addressed, but one we're finding increasingly of concern is the crime and the safety aspect of living in Yarra. The council elected not to install monitored CCTV cameras, which are a proven deterrent. Instead, they use environmental design principles like lighting or sightline. They're not working. A lot of our residents aren't feeling safe. And I don't think people are the council has been taking this seriously enough. It just seems like there's a lot of bureaucrats ticking boxes to cover off the latest crime initiatives. So I think safety is a very, very important concern for many, many of our residents, particularly up in the North Richmond area. But as the crime stats showed that came out earlier in the week, this is creeping down into our Burnley areas, our Cremorne areas. So I think that's something that really, really needs to be addressed.
Thank you very much, Kate. Would anybody else like to contribute to that question? Edward, yes.
Great, thank you. Many important things have already been touched on, so thank you everyone who's already raised those matters. One of those, though, I'd like to come back to is touching on planning. There's a range of different pressures on that front around development, affordability, greater provision of open space. For me, what's really important, something I'm really keen to explore with the community, is establishing a long-term plan for Yarra and Melba more specifically. Right now, as part of changes to the Local Government Act, we have to establish a 10-year vision. I want to go further than that. I'd like to establish something longer term where we can talk to the community and to establish an agreed position on how we want to move forward to address climate change, to address changes in population, how we manage that growth, how we support our businesses in a different way, and what kind of future we want for ourselves and for future generations. To me, that's a really, really important one. Other things that I'd really like to help address that I'm aware of in Melba that kind of critical issues from my perspective are working with the community around Burnley Park. There's a range of diverse uses emerging there, how we can best accommodate everyone in that space. Working with the North Richmond community to facilitate better outcomes in the Victoria and Elizabeth Street precinct, and supporting improved amenity for residents in the emerging area around the Cremorne Enterprise precinct. They're just some of the really important things for me. But of course, also revitalising our high streets.
Thank you very much, Edward. There seems to be nobody else who wants to tackle that particular question. So, there is, Sandeep.
Hi, thanks. Look, a lot of the things have been covered, so I don't want to go through them again. I guess one of the things that I've got from talking to people, especially older residents who've lived here for a longer time, they mentioned the feeling of the community feeling is being lost in Richmond. They talk about the times, when they used to have social groups and social networks, which they feel has been lost as more people have, I guess, lived in closed off apartments and don't interact so much on the street anymore. I think one thing that we can do as council is try to rebuild that community. And I think rebuilding the community will solve so many of the issues that people are talking about. I mean, a few people have mentioned crime or something. And I think that comes from not feeling part of the community. And I think if we build the community feeling, people feel like this is their home, they belong here, their voice is heard, their value, I think they'll feel a lot more part of Richmond, and these smaller issues will go away.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. Our next question comes from Anne Covery from Nichols Ward. And Anne wants to know, what does community engagement mean to you? And do you have any specific examples that resonate with you? And we've got so many thumbs up. We'll go to Dora. We'll need you. Thanks, Dora.
Thank you so much. Yes, community engagement. What does it mean to me? Well, because I've grown up in the public housing arena, I've still got a family who live in public housing. One of the obvious lack of engagement has been around people in public housing not even being represented, their voices not being represented in council for things that matter, for projects, initiatives, trials that impact their lives and their surroundings. And so the way I want to move forward in council is, like, where are the meetings? Where are the open forums where people from across all communities can come together? You know, people who are in public housing, and I'm not excluding other residents all over Richmond. Some people do not have English as a first language. It's their second language. They don't have access to the resources or how to find resources online to do with Yarra, to put through their complaints or concerns or objections. So they're always left in the dark. So even material that gets sent out through council, yes, some of them are translated, but let's be real. These people, they need more real engagement. I want to have open forums. We've got wonderful town halls, massive town halls with many rooms. When was the last time an open forum, you know, for representation across many sectors of the community were invited to discuss about projects? So that's what I'm really committed to, is making this real for people, going out and meeting the people, making times to have street conversations with people that are affected in many areas.
Thank you very much, Dora. Now, Don, you'd like to make a contribution to community engagement?
Thank you, Rod, and thank you, Anne, for your question. For me, community engagement means early consultation with the most affected parties and active listening to those parties and involving them in coming up with solutions. Now, that means if a decision is to be made that is going to have citywide implications, the consultation should be extensive. And for more local and ward-based decisions, I believe that the ward councillors should take accountability for doing that early consultation and problem solving with the local residents. Anne, you asked for one specific example, and one that's near and dear to my heart is the unresolved issue of the Burnley Park Cottage, a building part of which has great historical significance. That cottage, the caretaker's cottage, has become to all intents and purposes a white elephant, and something council seems not to have the appetite to address. This despite the fact that there's been a number of creative ideas put forward on how best it might be used, while also preserving the heritage and acknowledging the heritage of part of the building. Initially, it was simply fenced off, and then after significant complaints, it was at least given a coat of paint and the fence came down. But there have been a multitude of really good ideas put forward by residents that have not been acknowledged or furthered. And in relation to outstanding issues, I concur with what the other candidates have said. The one thing that was not mentioned for me was quite simply, the biggest unresolved issue for me is around consultation on an early basis and transparency in decision making to address community concerns and issues like overdevelopment and shadowing. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you very much, Don. And now we go to the leafy confines of the Burnley Gardens, and Kate.
Thank you again, Rod. I think community engagement, the trials don't seem to be trials. They seem to be, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pretend it's a trial for 3 years and then we're going to do it. Elizabeth Street was a case in point. Even the supervised injecting room is a case in point. They just keep extending that trial. But the dismissive arrogance of the councillors who are supposed to be our representatives was really, really concerning. So community engagement is about knowing that you represent the residents. You don't represent the council. Elizabeth Street was put on the agenda to be heard at Fitzroy Town Hall in the week before Christmas. The residents were barely advised. They barely had time to get any sort of action plan together. Then luckily, they got a second hearing. Unfortunately, that second hearing wasn't successful. But then the CEO advised that it'd be tens of thousands of dollars to convert it back. Tens of thousands of dollars to remove some barriers doesn't resonate with me. Yet none of the councillors asked why it was going to cost that much money. But I don't think the right questions are being asked of the council on behalf of the residents in so many issues. So that's about community engagement to me.
Good on you. Thank you very much, Kate. And now David Horseman.
Thanks, Rod. And yeah, again, thanks for the question. And in particular, that example, I just wanted to build on the example that Kate gave. And that's mainly because I'm an Elizabeth Street resident myself. And it was a really great example of what could have been an amazing project. And hopefully with the right commitment and the right council, it still can be an amazing project, but it really did demonstrate what not to do. So we had thousands of public housing residents who, as Dora pointed out earlier, many of them don't have English as their first language. We had a process that has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to make significant changes to one of our busier streets for really good reasoning, to make cycling safer along Elizabeth Street. That's a great thing. We all want that. But by not going through that engagement first for such a significant project, this was not a little parklet somewhere. This is a long street affecting hundreds and thousands of residents. And there was no genuine prior consultation that gave one of our most vulnerable and diverse communities the opportunity to understand what was going to happen. And then through the trial, in the process whereby they're meant to respond to residents and make changes, the residents themselves came up with an alternative design. They did the hard work. They didn't just shake their fists in the air and say, we just want it all gone. They actually came up with a compromise solution that was a balanced outcome for both cyclists and residents, and yet copped a kick in the teeth at the council meeting that Kate refers to by basically just being told, well, it all just needs to bed down. I'm sorry, that's just a demonstration of community engagement, how it shouldn't be done. And I look forward to being able to correct that in the future.
Okay, thanks very much, David. And Mitchell.
Rod.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I've been waving over here at you.
Oh, sorry, Katerina. We'll go to Mitchell next, but sorry, your turn.
Sure.
Katerina.
Oh, me or Mitchell?
No, you. Definitely.
Oh, thank you.
You.
Well, on this particular question, I'm, I guess, most affiliated with Don. I think this is really, we can pick examples where it failed, but the whole issue here is about communication and the relationships that we build with the community before implementing anything short of emergency situations. I don't believe that anything should be put forward, implemented or trialed before residents and groups have had a chance to understand the issue or the proposal at hand. We need to take the time to make the effort to ensure that the community members who wish to have a say or an involvement, that they can, regardless of their language. And only after this process can we move forward. It is vital that those that live in an area, I believe, or a street should have the biggest say in what happens in that street, not other groups, regardless of what their beliefs are. And the question actually did ask for an example, which I would like to use. It was in a Perth suburb, consulting with the locals of the area. And in the end, they decided upon implementing verge farms. And they built mini farms. Some had chickens, some just had seats and flowers and trees, little play areas. And these areas barely get damaged because all the locals have a vested interest in it. And whether they're old or they're young, they're all engaged in this project. And some are growing vegetables, they're sharing eggs. The oldies might just be sitting on a bench reading a good book, but it is their area and it is joyful and they share it. And I believe that projects like this build community and they foster friendships, which is precisely what we need in a city. And where our council has failed us is that they act like they know better than we do what we need. And that is just not acceptable.
Thanks, Katerina. We're all moving to Perth. Now, Mitchell, I'll go to you next, and then Sandeep is wanting to say a few words. So, Mitchell, thank you.
Thanks, Rod. I think the biggest thing when it comes to community engagement is the basics of listening. And that's where we, on all the projects that have been mentioned tonight, having the ability for our councillors to listen and holding them accountable. So whoever you do elect in October, you need to hold them accountable and they need to listen. They might not be able to come up with solutions, and anyone that promises you tonight that they can change the world and be able to represent every single view is simply giving you lip service. Our role as a councillor is to listen to the collective and to be able to then represent you on council. And if it's not a council matter, and some of these matters that we're discussing tonight are not council issues, they are state government issues, they are state government funded projects, and we need to work with our local members and federal members if it's a federal project. But community consultation, to the heart for me, to what the question was, is really about having the ability to have forums. And I think Dora spoke about this in her answer. Why aren't we using the council facilities to have more listening town halls? Why aren't we working to have regular listening posts on the big issues? Why isn't there surveys where, whether it's online or postal surveys, that we can and council can listen to some of the issues that matter most to you? And I think Edward made a comment before around the vision or a plan for Yarra. Well, the only way we're going to get a vision and then that plan for Yarra is if we actually listen to the concerns of the community. And then we put all that into action. And we also need to remember that through community consultation, not everyone's going to be happy. So being a councillor, it's not about a contest of popularity. It's about being able to tackle the big issues and then being able to listen and then be able to then deliver.
Thanks, Mitchell. And now Sandeep.
Thank you. And I think Mitchell actually explained that quite well. What I was going to bring up was that a lot of people here have talked about consulting with community, but I would like to take it a step further and say, I don't know how many people are familiar with the IAP2 spectrum, and that's the spectrum of community engagement. And it starts off with informing, then consulting, then it moves to involving, collaborating, and finally empowering. And each of these stages is where you get greater community involvement. So the ultimate stage is empowering, where you basically tell a group, these are the problems, these are your resources, fix it. I mean, what would you do to fix it? And let's do that. And that is, you know, the best case scenario. And I see David nodding because I think he understands this thing. That's the best case scenario of community consultation. Now, the flip side of that is that's very expensive. It does cost money. And, you know, the difficulty for us is then, for council, is then balancing that, like, what level of consultation will we do? Because what that means is we might be consulting about a specific area, but then the ratepayers of all of Melba have to then fund that. So this is where the difficulty comes in. And the way I would suggest is that, you know, we set up a plan where you say if a certain number of people are affected, or if a certain number of car parks are affected, or if a certain stretch of, you know, road is affected, we will do this kind of consultation. If more people are affected, we'll go to a higher level of consultation. And I think Yarra needs some sort of a step-by-step plan saying that where it's, you know, it might affect one house, one neighbor. We're not going to go for a full, you know, 300-person town hall meeting for one street. But where it affects 1,000 people in a big block of units, then yes, we will do that sort of stuff. So I think we do need to work on a proportional response to one of these things.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. Now, our next question comes from Tom Harper of Language. Planning will be a major focus for the councillors. How are you equipped to understand and engage with planning, and what kind of experience do you have? So anybody like to kick this one off? 5, 4, David, thank you very much. And we'll come to you.
Actually, Rod, I do want to answer this one, but in fairness, Sarah had her thumb up before me.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to hand to Sarah first.
Good on you, Sarah. I apologise.
No, that's fine. I think I said in my opening statement that I work with property developers a lot, and that planning is a big part of what I do in my day-to-day. And I really just wanted to say that although my experience with planning is from an outsider, it's not educated through, but it is really just having an understanding of what is best for the area and what we can get back from the planning processes that we're putting in place, and ensuring that the best results come through on top of that. So making sure that all the considerations are coming in, and that we look to those when we're putting our planning parameters in place. So that's all.
Thank you, Sarah. So, David?
Thanks, Rod. Thanks, Sarah.
What a polite man you are too.
Thank you. As I said, you're talking me up too much. But no, look, in all seriousness, so in terms of actual experience and what I bring to the table, so I mentioned earlier that I've spent more than 2 decades working either with or in local government. And almost all of those roles have involved town planning to some degree. And my main professional career in asset management effectively works hand in glove with planning, structure planning, master planning, all of those aspects. But I've also had direct experience in the community development sphere and spent a stint responsible for planning community infrastructure, which was a direct component of the planning scheme. So I suppose, as I mentioned in my intro, I do have that professional experience, but I also have a commitment, and some people will have heard me talk about this commitment before. And I suppose it's maybe not a commitment, it's a frame of reference. For me, planning starts with community. We're a community first and foremost, and therefore whatever you do in terms of strengthening our planning scheme, in terms of implementing processes for planning and development, and in terms of supporting the community, it must start with that principle that what you're trying to do is you're trying to preserve everything that's amazing and unique and valued in our community, and then you're trying to allow development that complements that. So therefore, the starting point is community, not that we're a vacant lot. And currently, that's what I feel. We're taking an approach where Richmond is just a vacant lot for developers to exploit. And we absolutely have to change that. And I want to turn my professional experience and my personal commitment to achieving that for the community.
Thank you, David. And Edward, you are next.
Great, thank you. As mentioned, I am a town planning, transport and urban design professional, and I've had time in roles as a statutory planner, actually with my first role being at the City of Yarra, and in social planning, transport planning.
Sorry.
It's going back a fair while now though. But I've worked across the transport and planning spectrum, and I currently work as a strategic planner, so long-term land use planning. And I've worked in council and state government work environments, so I have a really good understanding how council and state government operate and what's within the remit of those different levels of government. And I highlight the importance of this so as to not overcommit and then not be able to deliver. There are a number of external factors that will inform that we have to, sorry, I'll try that again. There are a number of factors that will inform the future of a city that we're going to have to accommodate, and that is the likes of population growth and also addressing climate change. But it's up to us to shape how we facilitate that so we can hold on to what makes Yarra great and make it even better. There's a positive in there, but it's about working with the community around how we actually do that. That's what's really important. And it's something I'm really excited about. Having recently finished off a secondment working on a 50-year future vision for another municipality. It's the kind of piece of work that I'd love to explore further here at Yarra.
Thanks, Edward. We're almost at a break time, but Don has had his little thumb up for some time. So,
And me.
Katrina, we'll have to leave you till after the break, I'm afraid. But
That's okay.
if you can be brief, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you, Rod, for squeezing me in. Look, a significant part of my working life has been for the last 20 years facilitating strategy and planning sessions with executive teams and working with project directors at the starting point of their projects to do strategy and planning. I also spend a lot of time working with entities that need to work together but that are in conflict, helping to mediate. Now, none of that is in local government experience, but I believe I bring great process literacy, an understanding of how to engage stakeholders in the planning process, and years of industry experience in leading strategy and development planning, all of which I think can translate very easily into the public sector and local government because it's process-based rather than content-driven. And I think it is beholden to the voters to consider that if you genuinely want to change the culture of the council, you have to consider bringing in some people with outside perspectives. Thank you, Rod.
Thanks very much, Don. Well, look, we're going to have a 10-minute break now, and we will come back with more questions after the break. So tea and coffee are available if you have them in your kitchen. The toilets are either there, or they could be there, or they may well be there. I've got no idea where your toilets are, but take that 10 minutes to have a little think and regain your breath. And to our candidates, thank you. It's been extraordinarily effective so far. I'm very proud of you all. And I think those people who've joined us online will get a very good impression of who you are and what you stand for. So we'll have more of this in about 10 minutes. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
You've done very well, Don.
There we go. Just getting some feedback from my wife, who's worried about my hair and other things. And I think my moustache is longer on one side than the other. So she asked me to apologise for those things. Anyway, we've got 249 people who've logged on to be part of this. And look, that's as many as you would get at a meeting, I think. So it's been a really, really successful and wonderful event so far. And as my wife said, even if you as an individual don't get elected, you're all such wonderful people. You should form a loose coalition and put all your skills and passions together. So look, we'll just we had Katerina who just wanted to answer that question about planning and what experience and that she can bring to the planning issue. So Katerina, if you'd just like to kick us off, and then we'll move on to the next question.
All right, thank you, Rod. Well, look, basically planning requires the ability to understand regulatory and statutory process. And I can sit here and tell you about my experience as an executive member of the conglomerate deal core group, setting up the IBIS, the engagement with building departments, working with the City of Melbourne, the boards that I've sat on and applications where I've had to deal with OH&S, state, federal and international law. But, you know, truthfully, I don't think any of that is important, and nobody's experience in that area is relevant, because we're not applying to be planners. What we want to do is to be counsellors. And what is most important is the discerning of information and being able to understand the data, to read and to apply that information to state and council bylaws and regulations, and then leading to logical queries and decision making, always in the interest of our community. So I don't think we need PhDs, and we don't need this experience in that particular field to be able to do this for the benefit of our community. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katerina. And our final question in what we've called the citywide issues. Planning will be, oh, sorry, that's the one we just did. After temporary outdoor dining measures are implemented in Yarra, what will council be doing to implement more permanent measures in a post-pandemic environment? My goodness me, Mitchell, you're there already.
Thanks, Rod. Well, this issue is something that's I'm hearing from traders when I talk to them, but also it's something that we're seeing in the news. And as we come on the other side of this pandemic, it's going to be important that we look to trial these new outdoor fresco plans. As we know, though, you can have 4 seasons in an hour in Melbourne. So being able to have outdoor dining as the only option is not going to be the answer to everyone's problems. I think we need to have the mix still of indoor and outdoor. Sorry, one moment. I was choking, the water went down the wrong way. But I also think that we need to be trialling parklets. We need to be looking at urban tacticism and how we can reshape our streets and trial new things. Now, I know that the word trial's been used a bit tonight, and it has good and bad experiences with some in the community. I'd like to see us trial some of what like City of Melbourne is doing in terms of closing some of the streets and making them available just for walking, active transport. We have plenty of little nooks in our city that we could do the same. And being able to then work with the traders, work with the Victorian Chamber of Commerce and other organisations. There's no need to recreate the wheel here. A lot of this planning is already happening. And what we can do is learn from our sister councils that are next door, that are already looking at doing this on a much larger scale, and then bringing that back to Yarra, localising it, listening to you, the community, listening to the business owners, and then being able to implement it. And if it doesn't work, scrap it, go back to something else. If it does work, expand it and have more of it.
Okay, thanks, Mitchell. Anybody else like to?
Yeah, I really would like to answer this one, because hospitality has been my life. I have worked in hospitality ever since I can remember, and I know how difficult it is to run large, but particularly small businesses. And I'm really not particularly happy with what the city of Melbourne is proposing, or what the City of Yarra, with the idea of $5,000 grants that you must apply for if you are eligible. It's not adequate, it's not enough, and they should not have to apply for anything. What I would propose is to do away with any council charges for the next 2 years for outdoor seating, for signage boards, to actually help people. And then I would have council funding the building of permanent structures along these strips that are weatherproof and that are safe and in keeping with the area, so that each street could be individual. I would create a precinct of outdoor green dining that would be funded by council at a base level, and then traders have the opportunity to upgrade and personalise at their own expense if they so choose. Promoting street markets so that shops and cafes and small business can sell their wares, along with rotating art events and cultural festivals, because we do have a lot of pockets that are not being used. So it doesn't only have to be along the main strips, and this will draw visitors and residents alike to the area. Swan Street did change their fortunes because they took things into their own hands, and I would like to work with Bridge Road and Victoria Street traders to build sustainable, successful strips that preserve and build on the unique individual flavour of these streets that surrounds. This is something that I have been working with businesses, with non-for-profits for many, many years, and it is possible. It is not that hard, and our council needs to stop giving lip service and using things like "we will try" and "we will listen." Let's do it, because we can do it. And if there is no profit at the end of the year, well, that's too bad, because these are the people, it is their money, it is their rates, it is their livelihoods. That is what keeps our city alive, and that's what we should be promoting and helping and ensuring that they have a future.
Thanks, Katerina. Now, Dora, you had your hand up, and then we'll go to Don and then Herschel. So, Dora?
Yes, thank you, Rod. Well, many of the things that have been ideas that I've been thinking about have been shared already. And one of the main things we need to also be mindful of is to make sure we are actually liaising directly with the traders, with the small business owners. Some things are going to work better than others for people when it comes to outdoor dining, and absolutely agreed that we need to actually invest in them right now, and we need to take away the difficulties of applying for grants, the difficulties in putting through the process that's required to actually have these traders access the funds. We need to be looking outside the box and invest heavily. Why? Because if we can help them with what they actually need to start to become successful again, and it's obviously going to take time, but the more they become successful based on what they need to do and how they want to use the funds, then of course that's going to generate also employment opportunities for the local community. And of course, that's going to help a lot more people who are out of work because of COVID in the local community. So we need to actually do that where it's easier for them to access funds, and investment is the way that we're going to revive these streets. And also, you know, I agree with looking at the different traders' fees that they have, a variety of footpath fees that have been that the traders have to actually pay. And just as an example, I just wanted to highlight for a trader or a restaurateur who actually may be a licensed restaurateur, to have one chair outside right now at the moment, it costs around $75 for one chair. So if we're encouraging outdoor dining, and obviously we're going to have more chairs, more tables, the table is $82 just to have one table. Imagine if we need to have 10 tables, that's a lot of fees that these traders are paying. So right now we need to actually have a freeze on them. I believe that's, you know, in the process of happening, but that once it's the time's passed, we need to review those fees. We need to make these fees, you know, very reasonable, or if not at all, for the next 12 to 18 months, to allow traders to utilize everything that they possibly can to become successful, which then will feed back into local employment as well.
Thank you very much, Dora. And Don.
Thank you, Rod and Peter, for your question. I'd really love to see hawkers markets, festivals to celebrate different cultures and their foods, more street markets, pop-up restaurants. I'd love to see a Sunday Gleedle Street morning, a morning market on Gleedle Street on Sundays for arts and crafts to complement the Saturday market. And Rod, you may be able to help with the next one, which is to bring a portion of the Melbourne Comedy Festival and of course the Midsummer Festivals to venues on Bridge, Swan and Victoria on a more permanent basis. I think that would be tremendous for the ward and the community.
Give me a ring, Don. Good. Okay, Herschel. Oh, sorry, Herschel, your microphone?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. So I've been currently working with traders, helping them to organise spaces. And if there are any traders listening, please message me and I'm happy to facilitate that. Point is to get in now quickly before the rush. But since 2015, the Bridge Road Main Street worked with Tract Organisation to look at some of the opportunities along Bridge Road. Bridge Road in particular is a long linear street. It's a very contested street. As with Victoria Street and Swan Street, we're competing with trams, we're competing with clearways, and it makes for a difficult customer experience. So one of the challenges that we were looking at was to try and find spaces, exciting spaces that could be developed and to enhance the customer experience. Now, we were fighting both the council that didn't really want to respond to this idea, and we're also fighting against Vic Roads, which also didn't want to really respond to this idea. But because of COVID and this now requirement to social distance, it gives us a chance to trial, that word trial, spaces that we can activate, reclaim road space, reclaim car parks, and we can sort of work with traders to try and really put some vitality into the streets, and to do that adjacent sort of areas that are not contested. And we think there will be a really great opportunity here to trial some of these pop-ups. Now, some of them will work, some of them won't work, but we think it's a powerful way of injecting some vision, some new ideas into Bridge Road, Victoria Street, the car park on the corner of Nicholson Street and Victoria Street is a good example of a space. Lennox Street, to me, is a wonderful opportunity space. We've got some Judd Street car park. Waltham Street's a nice little street we can work with. There's a little laneway next to the hospital, another little spot that we could work with. We've got some great, up White's Place is another great space. So we've got some really good spaces that we can work with. I know that the traders, especially Victoria Street, are looking at little blue chairs to try and invigorate their eating experience. So yeah, this is a wonderful experience, opportunity for us to really sort of go to town and try some new ideas. So I'm looking forward to some really great outcomes. Thank you.
Good on you, Herschel. Thank you very much. And Sandeep, I see you've moved. You're further down, you're further down the road. Well, I'm glad you took the opportunity of that break to do that. So yes.
Look, a lot of great ideas have been raised, and I appreciate that. One thing that people haven't talked about is, of course, the digital future that we're having. So many of us don't actually go to the shop to buy food anymore. We use Uber, or we use, Foodora, or any of those apps. So I think one thing we do have to acknowledge is the changing nature of people. And, Richmond has got a lot of young people. I read somewhere that I think it was something like 30% of people are 30 years old or under, or something like that. So we've got a huge young population who are very digitally savvy. The thing is now to make sure that our businesses can meet that, make sure that all our food places know how to use Uber or whatever the latest apps are. Make sure that restaurants and shopping, experiences do know how to tap into that market. So I think one thing the council can do, apart from the things that we've already mentioned, one thing council can do is just, set up assist shops to get online and get into the digital world, because I think that's a big part of the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Sandeep. And David.
Thanks, Rod. And as all of those responses have indicated, it's both a challenge, but also a really exciting opportunity for our businesses to recover and to really ultimately thrive into the future. The only thing I wanted to do over and above all of those great suggestions is just tie together a really important concept. And that is, if they are to be successful, it's about businesses being able to thrive. And there were some great ideas to support that. It was about what each of the precincts bring, because again, we have very significant retail precincts here. And what we don't want is for them to be competing with each other, because what's going to be super important to their success and to their thriving into the future is for people to want to come back. So we need to draw people in the first instance, and even things as simple as the voucher system that was mentioned before has been one of those ways it's been done overseas. But once you've drawn them in, you have to bring them back. Businesses can't sell to people who aren't there. So we need to make sure that when we're doing these things, we're doing them in a coordinated and a complementary way, so that each of our streets are able to thrive and that they're each bringing people back to there for the thing that they offer that's unique. And I'm sure we'd all agree, Swan Street, Bridge Road and Victoria Street potentially, together with a couple of our other busy streets, offer very significant opportunities to build on our diversity and offer really, really unique experiences, not just in Yarra, but across Melbourne. And I think that's a really important point to remember.
Good on you. Thanks, David. We're going to move on now to what we call our Melba issues. And this question comes from Jonathan Lowe, a resident of the Melba ward. Will you support the majority of residents that want the safe injecting room relocated, given the complexity of its current location? And Don, you're in there first, and then we'll go to Sandeep.
Rod, Sarah's hand was up first. So
sorry. Okay. It's really hard to follow. Sarah, away you go, Sarah.
No worries. Thank you, Don, again. I just wanted to say what a loaded question, first of all. And second, I am a foster carer of children who come in my care. And I just wanted to let you know that a lot of the children in my care have parents that have experienced drugs and alcohol problems and all sorts of issues. And I can assure you that the children in my care, no matter what's happened to them in their experience, they don't want their parents to die. They want them to be alive and well so that they can sort themselves out and eventually, hopefully, go back to live with them if the situation's right. I also wanted to let you know that a lot of the kids that have come into my care, a couple of them have actually gone to the school there. And I know the principal at the school, Pip, she does a really good job of keeping those kids safe and secure and aware of the environment that they're in, keeping them educated and keeping them looked after. So what I wanted to say is that the drug injection room, yes, it is a big contentious issue within Melba, but it also is saving lives. And I think that the problem is misunderstood through the fact that people are thinking that the drug usage around the area is because of the injecting room. I think that it's a separate issue. I think that if this injection room was somewhere else, it would still be a drug issue in that area. So maybe the injection room needs to have other support in that it needs to have better policing around it, better cleaning around it. I have compassion for the residents that live around it. Obviously, they don't deserve to see some of those challenging situations either. So let's look after those residents at the same time. But let's also advocate to the wider Melbourne community to potentially stop this being the one location, being a real central place for drugs in Melbourne. Let's maybe suggest that there could be other injecting rooms around, and therefore we can spread this problem, which is bigger than any of us. Let's face it, but none of us are going to solve the drug problem by moving or not moving the injecting room. This is not going to happen. But what we can do is be compassionate to the people that have drug issues, and be compassionate to the residents that are living in and around it, and work together to get an outcome that is better than what is there now. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Now we're going to go to Don, then we'll go to Sandeep, then Mitchell, and then Dora.
Thank you, Rod and Jonathan, for your question. I feel strongly on this issue, and it is one that dividing lines are being drawn over. Addiction is a health issue, it's not a moral issue. And addicts are sick people who need to get well. They're not bad people who need to somehow get better. And they are deserving of our compassion and our support. I do believe the injecting room does more good than harm. And while it may save lives only in the short term, it provides a conduit into more lasting programs of recovery and much improved health outcomes for those suffering from addiction. And that's a good thing. That said, I have to acknowledge that there will always be a criminal element seeking to exploit an addict's addiction. And that personally, I think the best location for an injecting room, and I'm in favor of more injecting rooms, is somehow to be within a hospital, an ideal venue for dealing with health issues, but also a better equipped venue to address the security concerns related to that exploitative criminal element. We need to be realistic, and I agree with what's been said. This is ultimately a state government decision. But I would be in favour of council lobbying state government to consider how best they work with hospitals to create the spaces for injecting rooms. Thank you, Rod.
Thanks, Don. Sandeep?
Thank you, Rod. Look, I'm going to follow up with what Sarah said. The Hamilton report showed that over the first year of operation, about 3,500 overdoses were safely managed inside the centre. So that's 3,500 overdoses that could have been on your streets, but it wasn't. It was inside a managed centre. That they estimate saved about 22 lives. And again, as Sarah said, these are 22 people who are parents, who are kids, who are brothers and sisters. So there's 22 lives that have saved, 22 families who still have their relative around, hopefully who's living a bit longer to be able to be taken off the drugs. So I definitely agree with the whole injecting room. Now, the question said that the majority of residents oppose it. Unfortunately, I've not seen stats on that. Now, I've seen some Facebook posts. I've seen people saying that, yes, we don't like it, but I haven't seen concrete evidence. The best evidence, as an engineer, the best thing I can do is see the evidence that we have. Now, if these groups do have evidence, I wish they'd present it to me. The Hamilton report, which is the most, the best evidence we've got so far, showed roughly about half the people said that things have got better and half the people said things have got worse. A state government agreed to that and said, all right, we're going to do something about this. We're going to start the North Richmond Precinct Project. So state government is now putting in $9 million towards improving the amenities and towards improving the area. Now, as a councillor, if I get elected, I will work with the community to make sure that we get the best outcome possible from these $9 million. If needed, I will advocate to getting more money if we can do more with it. But the point that has to be made, and everyone who's watching this needs to know, it's a state government issue about the location. Council does not decide the location. And what we can do is work with government work with state government, that is, to make sure that the best outcomes can come out of it for the area. So anyway, that's my.
Thanks, Sandeep. Now, Mitchell, I'm sorry to get some urgency into this, but we're running close to time.
Rod, I'll be quick. I think everyone's got some really valid points there. You know, Sarah opened up with the compassion that I think all of us have for the issue and for people who are certainly being faced by it. And Jonathan, I know that you're watching tonight. For you and your family and others that are living around that area, at times it must be and must feel like how frustrating that you can't feel safe in your own backyard. I empathise with you on that issue, and this is something that we need to sit down with our state representatives, and Richard Wynne is our local member, and we need to be working with him and the new mental health minister that was sworn in today, James Marino, the Deputy Premier, to be able to work through these issues. But as Sandeep has said, the location is a state matter. Council can take the issues and the concerns of the community and raise them. And if I'm elected, and I'll work with the other two councillors and the other councillors on council to ensure that we have a united voice. This shouldn't be a political matter. We're talking about people's lives here. This is a health service, and Don made some really good points there that we need to look at the holistic view, and perhaps having more of these centres in hospitals, in other areas around the location. And the last thing I would say is that, and Sandeep covered this as well, to make bold statements of that this is a completely matter for all of Melba, I think is, without the data in front of us, is a very bold statement to make. Now, I'm happy to see that data as well. I'm very happy to sit down and when we can, or go for a social distance walk around a park and discuss the data at length. This is a big issue for those who live in that area, and I'm not at all discrediting that. This must feel like, sometimes it feels like hell. And I can't understand more enough that the challenges you go through. But we can start a shopping list. We can make sure that that $9 million is well spent, that we get the crime prevention programs that we need. I read on the chat tonight that there was some say that a gun was found today in the park. That type of behaviour is not okay. And we need to have crime prevention programs in place. But we also need to remember that and other candidates as well, I encourage them, don't run campaigns on changing the location. It's not going to work. The location is set by the state government. Let's use our collective voice to get what you deserve, safety in your backyard. And let's remember, we're dealing with people's lives. These could be your brothers, cousins, sisters, aunties, uncles, whoever it might be. Let's have the human element to the argument.
Thanks, Mitchell. And Dora.
Yes, thank you, Rod. And a couple of things around this. Having lived through the last 2 years experiencing the location of the injecting room, first of all, I want to say I support the philosophy of the injecting room and harm minimisation. And what I wanted to say was that the location has always been the thing that has really distressed the community, both private residents, the local residents, the public housing residents, the actual Victoria Street area. And I want to just say too, just recently we saw the statistics have come out that the location of this premises has greatly impacted the experiences of the local people, where drug crime has gone up by 38.9% and drug dealing and trafficking has gone up by 27.3%. And also the recent independent report that was done by the review panel said that the amenity has not improved with the injecting room there, and it's most likely not going to improve within an injecting room there. So it has caused a lot of problems for the community. And the other thing I want to talk about is it's not just about what problems people are experiencing, which are really severe in many cases. However, it's the way that the council has approached this over the last 2 years. And I want to just, talk about the tale of two councils, because we saw recently it was announced that a second injecting room the government wanted to introduce in the city of Melbourne down at Queen Victoria Street. And yet that council took a very different approach in how it consulted and engaged its community, its traders, its local people. They took a very different approach where they're actively communicating and meeting with their constituents. The difference here with council in the city of Yarra, they didn't meet with the public that was greatly affected. And even during the whole process of the trial, in many cases, they played down the concerns that people who live in the area, who work in the area, the public housing residents, their voices were not being heard. Their complaints were not being heard. They were played down. They actually were made to feel as if they were not important. So that's what I want to address here. It's the way the council approached this whole process with this trial, again, that word, and it showed clearly that they just totally dismissed the greatest community that got impacted and has been impacted, which is the North Richmond community. So for me, it's about how we manage these types of things, and we do have a voice, because just like Melbourne City Council was able to put a stop in the process for the time being, and they're providing different options, we should also have the option to discuss what can we do to pressure the state government to address these issues. The issues are real. They wouldn't be throwing money, 9 million at us, if we didn't have problems, if the injecting room didn't cause these problems. It's all about the location. It should never have been put next to a primary school in the largest public housing estate area, right in the middle of a residential area. So that's what my concern is.
Thank you very much, Dora. Now,
Rod, you keep missing me, but I'd really like to say something on this.
Sorry, Katerina. Look, we're really knocking on heaven's door in terms of time. We've got to wrap up at 9 o'clock. Edward, I know I was going to go to Edward next, but we really do now just need to wrap up by giving you each approximately a minute just to sum up before we close down the meeting. So we'll start with, where are we? Who are we going to start with this time? Oh, there we go. Oh, look, it doesn't matter. Let's, what happened? My pieces of paper gone everywhere. Oh, you could have been talking for this time, Katerina. Oh, look, it does. Oh, Herschel. Sorry, Herschel. If you could just wrap up your part of the event, we'd be very grateful.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen and voters of Melba, I'm a 67-year-old grandfather, and there are many more reasons to vote the young, well-qualified candidates before you. However, anyone living in Melba has benefited from my work wholly or in support over the last decades. We still have activity centres because in 2008, the government wanted to turn these roads into traffic sewers by extending clearways on every arterial road 10 kilometres from the CBD. You're able to cross safely at a busy road at a tram stop with a pedestrian crossing. Kids are able to enjoy recreational reserves that were destined for development. Lighting up the town hall at Christmas or the famous Richmond Premiership. Food festivals along Bridge Road. Not having to pay a bin tax that would have cost you increased rates. Improved accountability and transparency and governance, especially over the open space developers' contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a one-issue candidate. However, I am wanting to complete a task that I've been on since 2015, which is the revitalisation and the reactivation of Bridge Road and Victoria Street activity centres. I want to deal with the long-term dereliction of these centres. Your vote is important in this election to help me complete this work and to make those streets vibrant and vital community centres, great places for you and your future generations to live, work and enjoy. I'm committed to strategic planning reform. I'm committed to transparency and accountability. I'm committed to improving engagement and ensuring pastoral care. I'm unapologetic about supporting the injecting room, which I believe is providing dignity and compassion and a public health outcome. I'm unapologetic about supporting the bike paths, which I think are fantastic, by the way. And I seek to improve active transport solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening and stay safe. Thank you.
Good on you. Thank you, Herschel. Katerina, you've got unfortunately trimmed to a minute, but let's
I
hear.
shall try. Thank you. Well, I'd like to close by saying that nothing great can exist without good, solid foundations. And my promise to you is to focus on those foundations first: the clean, safe streets, amenity, disability facilities, car parking, the aged, rebuilding our shopping strips with outdoor facilities at council expense, festival and events that draw on and involve our multicultural community life, the families, youth engagement, and creating local jobs. I do not focus on what separates us, like age, race, wealth, or religion, but on what unites us. We can move forward together as a community with a common cause for a truly livable, friendly city for us all, with consultation, a primary focus and commitment, including acting for and on behalf of the residents whose concerns are the safe injecting room. These may not be buzzwords, but honour, honesty, diligence, truth, and integrity, they mean something to me. And I believe that they mean a lot to many of you. This is what I stand for, and this is why I would best represent you on council along with other independents. So let's make history and make this an independent council for 2021. Thank you.
Katerina. Thank you. And Mitchell.
Thanks, Rod. And just wanted to quickly thank the organisers for tonight. Tonight's been pulled together on a very small budget with great community passion and lots of time from others. So thank you. My fellow candidates, it's been a lively discussion with lots of ideas. And that's the great thing about democracy, is that we've all got different ideas. We don't have to agree, but we can be respectful, and I think that we have been. I started tonight by saying my vision for Melba is a better place to live, work and visit. And that certainly is at the heart of everything that I've been talking about tonight. I'm passionate about not giving you lip service. It's important that you vote for people who are going to listen to all of the issues, not just pick a handful of some. I think that as we go, you've heard tonight, there's many different opinions. There's lots of similarities in everything that we're saying. And I think all of us make that commitment to consult and listen to you and do better, and also do the best that we can. If you think that I've missed an answer tonight, or you want to know more about a particular issue, please visit my website, mitchformelba.com. Ask me a question via video, send me a message on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Give me a call, pop around to my house and have a socially distanced chat, 54 Neptune Street. It's on all my brochures. I want to hear from you on the issues that matter most. Stay safe, and thank you for listening and watching tonight.
Thanks very much, Mitchell. I'll see you around tomorrow afternoon for a cup of coffee. And Sandy.
Oh, thank you so much. Look, thank you so much again for the organisers who organised today. This has been a fantastic experience, and I wish it could go for longer. But to sum up, I just want to tell the voters of Melba that, look, you've heard a lot of people talk. A lot of people have complained about things, have been saying how things have not been good, but have not produced constructive strategies or constructive suggestions on how things can be better. I think that Yarra Labor, which I'm part of, and I'm very proud to be part of a team, has got a plan. We've got, if you look at our website, yarralabor.org, we've got our policies, we've got our candidates, and we've got what we stand for. Some people here have commented about being an independent voice, but remember, you're electing one member in council. We've got to work with all the others. So I suggest choosing a team that can work well together, and the Yarra Labor team does work well together. Choosing a mix of independents who just have a single issue on their mind, we'll just see, years of getting nowhere because they'll be just arguing about this and that issue. I'd rather suggest you go with a team that can provide a comprehensive solution to a whole range of problems. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandeep. And now we go to Penelope. And Penelope, you'll be glad to know you've won Best Collar Ruffle Award for this evening. And you get a set of steak knives. So Penelope, your summary, please.
Thanks, Rod. I'll set it for a cuppa at your house if that's okay.
Right.
As I'm supported by the Reason Party, and as a resident of North Richmond Estate, who generally quips that my closest neighbour is the injecting room, I feel compelled to respond just quickly on that issue. In the 7 years that I've lived on this estate, there's always been an injecting room, an informal injecting room. It's been the car park, the West car park on the estate, inside the buildings where I live, in the common areas, for example, the laundries and the stairwells. Now, I understand that on the face of it, putting a medically supervised injecting room next to community services and a school must seem absurd. But when you take into account the historical context and the intensity and frequency of drug use over time here, my children don't witness as much injecting behaviour because of the MSIR. It's achieving exactly what it was set up to do, which is saving lives. I think the MSIR has become a flashpoint for the wider drug culture, and I'm wary that some may conflate the wider drug culture with the MSIR. That's what I would say about that. Having said that, you know, I'm very aspirational as a resident on this estate. Obviously, I'm putting myself up for election in the council, and I will do so with an evidence base and compassion. And that's the same evidence base and compassion that I'll bring to all discussions around the MSIR and the amenities, you know, in the North Richmond area. And to that end, I will support the North Richmond Precinct project that looks to build on the outcomes in the expert panel report with the $9 million invested by the state government. So I really look forward to addressing safety, amenity, neighbourhood, economic revitalisation and inclusion, community participation, health and wellbeing through the governance project that's starting soon, starting now in the near term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Penelope. And David Horseman.
Thanks, Rod, and thanks to yourself and the organisers. As the others have said, it's been a fantastic evening, and I think we all wish it could go for a bit longer. Look, I actually will also have to talk briefly about the medically supervised injecting room, but the reason for that is I mentioned in my intro up front that what you really need out of a counsellor is someone who will show up for you every single day. There have been a lot of words, there was a lot of talk, there was a lot of there were a lot of really nice things said in relation to the medically supervised injecting room. But the problem with all of that is it actually was used to kind of cover up what is a really simple thing and what has been the focus of our community over the course of the past 2-year trial. And that is they quite frankly just got the location wrong. No one has argued against saving lives. No one has argued against the value that harm minimisation brings as part of an holistic model of prevention, rehab and harm minimisation. This community is proud to be progressive when it comes to drug reform. But at the end of the day, if you get something wrong, you don't just sweep that away. You don't just downplay the real lived experiences of people. You step up to the plate, you recognise the mistake and you do something about it. And folks, action is what is required, not words. And I also mentioned up front, you don't deserve to be treated as in the way. And that is what I have seen happen to the community in North Richmond. And I've also seen it happen on so many other issues. So for all of what was said tonight, the most important thing is to have a candidate there for you who won't just give you these words tonight, but will come back and talk to you day by day, week by week, every year for the 4 years, and to stand up for your local needs. And that is my very firm commitment to you. And I want to work hand in hand with you because you know your community better than anyone. And together we can craft the sort of community that you are proud to hand to your children. That's my commitment.
Thank you, David. And Kate. Yes, you're right. Yes, you're on.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you all for your very thoughtful questions and for allowing us to be part of this virtual Melba Town Hall. I look forward to being able to build a resilient Yarra through respective, respectful and consultative decision-making and lead our community on the road to recovery. I will always make myself available to you. And despite my hearing impairment, I will listen to you and I'll represent you. I'll support your safety. I'll support local businesses and jobs. I want to preserve our heritage and defend our neighbourhood's character. I will oppose inappropriate development and protect our environment and strengthen the sustainability. So once again, thank you to all the organisers and to Mr. Quantock for this wonderful opportunity to speak to you all.
Thank you very much, Kate. And Sarah.
Thank you. We've all heard some really interesting conversations tonight, and I'd like to thank all my fellow candidates who've brought up some really good points. Some points that I have more knowledge on and some points that I have less knowledge on. But one thing I'll promise to you is that I will not make any decision without proper understanding both sides of the argument and making a well-considered approach to listening to the community and making sure that we understand the whole topic before we make decisions. So that's basically all I wanted to say. Thank you for the time, and I look forward to the rest of the campaign.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Now, Dora. There we go. I think there. Good.
Yes, thank you very much for this great opportunity tonight. And for me, it's all about making, like, what I'm about is delivering a way that we can effectively liaise with the community. Now more than ever, we need to have the voices of residents heard, of traders heard, of people who live and breathe Richmond. I want to bring it back to where we used to be, a thriving environment, a community that is safe, a community that is all about working together to make it the Richmond that I've grown to know and love over the many, many years. And that comes with having council that is about standing up for what's important to you. We don't want to have the political agendas anymore. We don't want to have the political ideas, the affiliations. I am a resident of Richmond. I want to represent the residents of Richmond and also the traders. And it's time that, you know, we have independents who are working together to actually put Richmond first.
Thank you very much, Dora. And now, Don.
Thank you, Rod, and the organisers. My vision for the City of Yarra is that we become in the next 4 years a community united in kindness, diversity and compassion, and a place where random acts of kindness are a norm, where diversity is embraced and celebrated, and we measure our worth by how we treat the most vulnerable in our community. A community of night markets and street festivals, where walking and cycling are safe activities for old and young, vibrant and alive and envied across Australia. My vision for council is simple, a council that serves the community without excuse or exception. Now, in closing, I have been, and will share this, reliably informed that within council, some have given me the nickname the notorious Don Ash because in their view, I'm good at making trouble. Well, I embrace that. And what I'd like to do is to make some good trouble, but from within, because that's the best way to change culture. I sincerely wish every other candidate well, but I ask for your vote because I'm a principled, passionate and articulate problem solver with 30 years experience in helping executives build safe and happy places for people to work. Together, we can make the City of Yarra a safe and happy place to live, work and play. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Don, and thank you to all the candidates. And for the 249 people who've tuned into this podcast, it would be now very nice for a round of applause. We won't hear it, but it'd be lovely to know that you're doing it.
Sorry, Rod.
Yes?
There's still a few of us that haven't gone.
What's that?
Rod, you've missed Edward.
Still haven't had the chance to go yet.
Oh, sorry, Ed. Oh, I'm sorry, Edward. How did that? Oh, I did too. And Mecca. What is Mecca? Oh, Edward, good on you. But Mecca's gone. Is that right? Yeah, all right, Edward, I do apologise because now you are the focus of everybody's attention. This is gold for you, Edward, gold, go.
No, look, first of all, thank you to the organisers and yourself, Rob, for hosting tonight. It's been brilliant. Given the current circumstances, any opportunity to engage with the community is really, really appreciated. And I realise there are a range of questions that we didn't get the opportunity to address tonight. And I'd like to highlight that I'm really interested to further those conversations with the community. So please do get in touch. I'd love to have that conversation with you. To all the other candidates, I really do wish you all the best with your campaign. I appreciate it's a tough, challenging experience, and I really wish the best for you. Along with my fellow Greens candidates, I want to emphasise that I'm really excited to be running as part of a team of really talented, committed individuals. And we have a plan, we have a policy, and we're here to work with you to get the best possible outcomes that we can. If elected, I really look forward to collaborating and working as closely as I possibly can with the community, with stakeholders, and with the other councillors to facilitate the best possible outcomes that we can for Melba and Yarra more broadly. It's a team effort, and we need team players to get good outcomes. Thank you.
Good on you, Edward. Thank you very much. Now, sure, we've covered everybody now. Very good. We've covered everybody. Well, look, to the candidates, thank you so much. I'm not a resident of your ward. After tonight, I would find it almost impossible to know who to vote for. You're all such extraordinarily interesting, informed, passionate people, and your links to the community are quite clear. And Melba is very, very lucky to have you competing for their votes. So thank you all very, very much. To the people who are watching online, thank you. I think tomorrow night there'll be a town hall for Langridge, and for the night after that it'll be Nichols Ward. You're all welcome to attend those online fora, and you're equally welcome to submit questions. As you can see, the candidates just don't represent their ward. They are acting on the behalf of all the residents of Yarra. So if you have questions for candidates in other wards, you're very, very welcome to submit them. You will get in the mail information about voting, and we'd encourage you all to vote. I suspect this could be one of the highest turn-ins, which won't be a turnout, it'll be a turn-in of votes for council elections this year. I look forward to you all making your contribution however you choose to, whether you win or not. You really are remarkable people. Thank you all very much, and we'll end it there and look forward to meeting our candidates in the other wards over the next 2 nights. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you all again. Take care.
Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, all the streams now finished.